why wouldn't you want to take care of that little bundle of joy? Why wouldn't you? You helped create it. So they both said we expected to do better. We expected to be vulnerable. We expected to ask for help. And even despite all of that, they still have some hiccups. That's life. You gotta learn. Sometimes you gotta touch the stove to see if it's hot. Although your parents have told you it's hot, don't touch. You're like, let me, and you do it anyway. So the idea is, despite all the, let's call them obstacles that we'll face in life, how do you bounce back when you get tripped up and fall? Some of us just lay there and expect to get bailed out from somebody. Get up. And my parents told me their story, and they're like, look, here's what we did. We didn't know this, so we asked some questions. And we found some more people who could help us, then some more. And then before you know it, you kind of hit this flow where it's just like, you know what you're doing.
Hello and welcome to the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. We're here to help you navigate life while disrupting the status quo. Our discussions cover a number of topics relevant to everyday life. We discuss everything from relationships to entrepreneurship. We also engage in some difficult but important conversations. And now, here are your hosts, Brian and Tanya Hamilton.
Welcome to the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about disrupting generational poverty. And our guest today is Jasper Smith. Jasper, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. And I love your take on this topic. But before we dive in, our first question that we ask everyone, and just going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. Who is Jasper Smith?
Ooh, lovely question. And Jasper Smith is also known as Mr. Bill Wealth, which you'll notice that's how I came into the conversation. And he's a guy who understands the language of money. It's a language that a lot of us don't speak that well, or maybe we've learned some things that just aren't going to get us to where we want to go in life. And so I've spent my entire professional career in financial services. And over the years, I've accumulated a lot of information. But it's not just me who should benefit from all this information. And so I do my part to share information and resources to help people get started with their build wealth plan, their financial plan, wherever you are in life. I got a lot of information and resources that I can share with you, but ultimately it's up to you to decide what to do next. And so over the years, I just continue to see kind of the same problems come up. Doesn't matter where you're from, what you look like, your education level. Some of us just didn't get the memo. And so I do all that I can to share this information and literally sit back and just see what people will do with the information. And my tagline, it's my mission. I am working tirelessly to disrupt generational poverty. And that is a loaded statement. What does that mean, Jasper? How are you going to do this? Well, it starts right here. Everybody talks about mindset for everything in life, and talking about your financial situation is no different. And so I think of like people as like, you got this three-legged stool. There's your financial health, there is your physical health, and there's your mental health. Now I say financial first on purpose because financial is usually the one that gets no attention. People understand they should take care of their physical health for obvious reasons. We've seen the landscape in the entire world focus, or at least have more open discussion around mental health, but financial always gets pushed to the back burner. And so you wonder why we have a wealth gap. That's why. Nobody's talking about it, or the ones who do have the information, they aren't sharing it. So I'm doing my part. I'm just one guy with simple. I'm just going to disrupt generational poverty. That's all. I'm not going to do too much more. I'm going to change the way you and maybe your family thinks and the way they feel about money. I'm going to try to do both of those in any interaction that I have with people. Is if I can do one or both of those things, you're going to become a financial rock star. If you just get out of your head or address the emotions and the trauma that all of us have apparently suffered in life, just deal with it. You're not the first one with that problem. There's almost maybe a short list of problems that nobody, that are special to one person. I mean, literally somebody starts talking, I'm like, I've heard this before. Oh, I'm from such, okay, great. Yep. So here's what you can do. take it or leave it. Because I do feel like you're an adult and you make all these decisions every single day of your life. But when it comes to your financial situation, it's almost like you're in elementary school all over again, unsure of yourself, not sure who to take advice from, or taking the advice and applying it, and it was the wrong advice. So it's a tough act that I don't know when it will get easy, honestly, but I am naive enough to think that I can make it.
Great. So how long have you been disrupting this part of life for people?
Oh, I started disrupting as soon as I came out my mother's womb. I broke out. No, I actually started right out of college. And so I've been in the financial services industry going on 13 years.
Okay.
So what made you decide to pursue a career in financial services?
Honestly, can I be honest?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I didn't see enough people who look like me.
Mm.
I know it sounds cliche, but I don't think people who look like me, whether they're a shade darker or lighter, we're not heavy in the financial services streets. And so when we look at who we want to connect with from a financial services position, well, I don't feel comfortable talking to you. You don't know my struggle. You don't speak my language, or you speak too proper, or your suit is intimidating me. And I've heard this over the years. I get a better reception being in a t-shirt or more casual than walking in suited and booted, because the fear around the conversation stops people. And let alone a young Black male talking about money, investments, insurance, retirement. I mean, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. This don't look right. You should be playing ball. You should. I mean, but that's the honest truth, y'all. It's just, I saw an opportunity. I didn't see enough people who looked like me doing the work. I said, you know what? I might as well try. I might as well try to be the guy who learns some things and shares it with his people. And that's what I've been doing.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned there were, kind of the the stereotype that you should be playing ball. And obviously, when we look at professional sports, if you want to look at the demographics, there's a lot of people who look like us in these sports. And one of the things that you see is shortly after they retire, even after they make millions of dollars, a lot of times coming from very little, growing up impoverished, they end up broke within a couple of years. Sometimes you see these guys who've made over $100 million filing for bankruptcy. So what are some of the stumbling blocks that we kind of face when it comes to just handling money?
The biggest one is the people we surround ourselves with. I think that's the biggest one. Just think about how you grew up. If you had friends and y'all were always getting into trouble, but you could have been like the goody two-shoe in your group. But if you were with your crew, all of y'all were going down when you got in trouble. And so you find that despite their athletic prowess, they can't separate themselves from their hood, wherever their hood may be in the world. It's hard to just, I remember when you helped me. And so it's almost like they feel obligated to continue trying to help the people who supported them on their journey to success, but not realizing that it's going the other direction now. They helped you get to that level, but now it kind of teetered out and it's going the other way. And so they can't mentally make the disconnect. You think about, I'll use the NBA as an example. If you go straight to the league, you're 18 years old, 19? Are you really ready to manage millions of dollars? Your family has never seen maybe thousands of dollars.
Right.
So you already may not even know how to negotiate a contract. And we, fingers crossed, that your agent is not trying to screw you over. And we hear those stories. And so you never got the foundation of what it's like to be financially responsible. And then bam, millions of dollars. It's the same concept with like people who win the lottery. A lot of them go bankrupt because you never mentally prepared, you never emotionally prepared for that life that we all dream and fantasize about. So if a lot of them had better counsel, better people around them who knew a little bit more about money, I think they would be better off, because I think they find it hard to not want to just show it off, baby. I've worked hard. I put in the time. I deserve to ball out and stunt and be on the gram and make video. That's great, but can you sustain it? Mm-hmm. And what happens when you get hurt? And we see all the stories of the woulda, shoulda, coulda who fizzled out, right? And there's nothing that you can really control. And so I find that you can control how you move when it comes to your money, but your body, Father Time's going to get you. I don't care how great you are. You might not be able to play as long as you think you can. And so I think they don't understand that they have such an incredible opportunity, but it's such a small window. You know, I got a small window to make all this money and make it stretch for maybe, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years and support all the people from my neighborhood, my family. But nobody's really getting to them early enough to say, hey, look, here are going to be some things that will happen to you. Guaranteed. Believe it if you want, but here are enough cautionary tales. So we hope you act right. But we know, unfortunately, a lot of them, they don't.
So let me just throw a few things out here before I get to the question. So really, I would say it's only been in the last few years where we've had a concrete plan of like, where do we want our financial future to take us? So I'm looking, we've been married for years. And I'm thinking at the beginning, we weren't having those conversations. I think it's fair to say. We were also, for years, the first few years of our marriage, where it's just like, okay, we're literally making ends meet. So then our mind was never thinking of, oh, we could actually try to work at our financial plan then. So maybe it's a myth. You can tell us in a minute. Is it a myth that you can't start financial planning until you have extra money?
Absolutely.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. Somebody said to me once, and this still is a thing. People believe until you are making or earning a certain level or dollar amount, you cannot have a financial planner in your life. And I thought about it. I said, well, when you get your first job as a teenager, you probably have a bank account at a minimum to deposit your check, I hope. You may or may not try to do a budget, because if you're young and you're working, you don't have a lot of bills, generally speaking. That is a financial plan. I know we look at it as, oh, it's just a budget. That's just money that's coming into your pocket. You need a plan right then and there. And just imagine if somebody was there to tell you, like, you know what, think about this. You make all this money, you have no bills. Why don't you just save and invest it? Like, to this day, I joke with my parents a lot. They did all right. I'll say that. I never want to give them too much credit because they always pat themselves on the back. But I am the youngest of three. And when I got into the industry, I began to ask them questions like, why didn't y'all do this? Why didn't you share this? And all they said was the honest truth. We didn't know. Some of those things we were even exposed to until later in life. So we didn't know how to have the conversation. And so I found myself challenging my parents, and I was like, y'all did pretty good. But imagine if we did a little bit more.
Right.
And when I talk about disrupting generational poverty, that's the goal. We are going to do the best we can with the time we have on this earth. When we leave, we hope we left it slightly better. Maybe we leave a house, a little bit of money, some jewelry, something. Maybe we leave the family something. But we also, in addition to leaving them something, aside from bills and heartache, which is what most families leave their families with, leave them a plan. And that plan could be on a napkin. Here's who gets all my stuff. Here's who I know is responsible and will do the right thing. Leave your family, I like to call it, leave them a love letter. and start working on the love letter now. While you're vibrant, your brain is sharp, just start charting it out right now. So when it happens, and we don't know what day or when our time is going to run out, your family's not scrambling. That's what hurts my heart, to see people who know they should do better who don't. It hurts my heart. I'm like, don't do it for me and for my business. Do it for you. Say you love these people. So if you're going to kill for your family, if you're going to rob for your family, if you're going to protect your family in the physical sense, what else would you do from a financial sense to protect them? But nobody's having that conversation, or we're not going deep enough in the conversation. It's all surface level. But when I die, they get all that stuff. All what stuff? Can you make a list? And we see families who tear each other apart over a house that grandma left, or grandpa, or the auntie, or whoever. And I'm like, yo, y'all used to be cool. You see siblings who don't talk anymore because, well, mom or dad or whoever knew you weren't financially responsible, but now you feel entitled because it's a big house that's worth a little piece of change. But if the person who had the asset just kind of wrote out, hey, unfortunately, knucklehead, you don't deserve it. You never came to visit me. All these small things you never did. So why should I help you? And families do this. And so I laugh when I started hearing these stories, but it's what you want. I can write out what I want to have happen long after I'm gone. Wealthy people do it all the time. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. It's good enough for y'all. It's good enough for every family who may listen to this. It's good enough for you too. Maybe it's not as robust or comprehensive, but do a little something for them. Leave it better than than it was left for you. Because I think it's the most selfish act that you want your children to live the exact same life that you did. And I've heard this a million times. The parent will say, well, when I went to school, I had to work 3 jobs and I didn't have a lot of fun. I couldn't do this. And I'm like, so you want your kid to have the same experience when you know you can do better? So why not just start as soon as they're born? And I've heard people say, well, I want to teach them the value of hard work. I say, you ain't got to teach them that way. Scare them to death. And I guarantee if you keep scaring them enough over the course of their younger years, they'll figure it out. How do I know? I'm the product of those parents. Hey, young boy, you are our 3rd child. And we figured out what to do with the first 2. You're going to have the same treatment. Here's what you're expected to do at this point in your life. First of all, you have no money. I was like, what? Y'all got this house and got these cars. They were like, you have nothing. So you and your job is to go to school, do your chores, and a short list of things that I had to adhere to if I wanted to live this, I'll say, a life of privilege. Mm-hmm. I was like, y'all mean, because all my other friends who don't have as much money as y'all do, they got everything, all the new clothes, the new cars. I'm like, I don't get it. But as I got into the industry and began to understand wealth, and you all may or may not have seen the meme before, but poor is flashy, rich is loud, and wealth is quiet. Mm-hmm. I live by that. And when I see people and how they move, I'm like, oh, they ain't got it.
Yeah.
Or there's an exception to every rule. You can be flashy if you're an entertainer. I don't mind you making videos all day long, but like, if that's not your thing, why are you putting so much effort into that? Mm-hmm. Because you want to show people that you're doing better than you really are.
Right. It's so true. I think that's come up so many times, even over the summer, just having conversations with family and friends and just talking business and different things like that. Right. It's true. It's definitely changed and definitely, I guess, against the grain when it comes to social media and things like that. But yeah, it's the people who are living quietly and doing their thing. Those are the ones at the end of the day that you may not even think of are the ones who are definitely wealthy, right? Yeah. And financially free.
Absolutely. I every time I meet them, I'm just in awe. Mm-hmm. They just like, they're cool and they don't have to say nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, for real, all of that. And when you start telling, and when they tell you their story, and this is why I love like storytelling, because everybody, you didn't just wake up and figure this out. We are all a work in progress, myself included. But at some point, you should kind of turn that corner. And I don't think it's an age thing. I know people like to say by this age, you should be more responsible. I think that's baloney. But some of y'all you're never going to act right. So I don't use the age as a measuring stick. I just say, let's review your life. No matter where you are you happy? I mean, like, for real happy. And you find that most people are not. And it's usually money isn't the driver. It's, I didn't fulfill myself professionally. I couldn't do more for my children, my family. It's always something that's non-financial. And then I come back and say, imagine if y'all had the money. And they're like, right, you wouldn't have struggled. You would have gone to that school. You could have taken that gap year before pandemics hit. I mean, I yearn for like all the kids in the world who are of color to take a gap year. College is going to be there. But when I checked to see who was doing a gap year, it wasn't people with my complexion or your complexion. They were a little bit lighter.
It is true, right? It's, it's nice to have that break in between, high school and post-secondary, because guess what? After post-secondary, you're into the real world. Like, you got to start paying back, here in Canada, it's the OSAP, you got to start paying that back. I don't know if it's right away. It always changes, but pretty much right away, right? So yeah, I mean, you might as well. It's out of all the time, that's the time to do it.
Yeah, but you think about, like, that's planning though. So the kids who are fortunate enough to take that gap year, just think about what their parents did. It wasn't what the typical parent does. They made some sacrifices in addition to supporting the child or children. You made a whole lot of sacrifices. And for what? To see those little people grow up into adults and then watch them flourish. And I share this story because it's my story. Again, I'm the youngest of 3, and I'm 36. And I'm recently married, and we had a reception back in my home state. So I'm in California, but I'm from North Carolina. And I love going home and just watching my parents. They're in their early 70s and they don't have a care in the world. Like they argue because they just have to do something. And like it's weird. It's like, y'all shut up. Y'all been married 50 years. Just stop. But they have to find stuff to argue about, which is like that's love, right? That's how they show they love. Y'all picking fights for no reason. But my mom's job as of the last about 12 months has been babysitting her grandson. That's her job. And you would claim she's so stressed, but the stress has like a smile when she's like, I'm just so tired of playing with him. And I'm like, that's your life? And they have their health. So you all are my example. And I talk about them a lot about, how did you all learn about investing and life insurance and all these things that I talk to my clients about regularly. And they're like, well, Jasper, why are you so passionate? I said, because I've seen it in real time. I didn't understand a lot of the stuff because I was so young, but as an adult, I'm like, hey, how did y'all figure this out? How did you two people from that neighborhood figure it out? And the key word, and this holds true because I interviewed them on separate occasions to ask, they both said the same word, expectation. I was like, come on, y'all, give me some more. They were like, no, we expected to do better. If we were gonna have children, and they had my sister very young, but my dad was like, I expected to be a good father and not an absent one. Oh, who knew? You can just make a decision to do better. And we're laughing because it's like, this is what why wouldn't you want to take care of that little bundle of joy? Why wouldn't you? You helped create it. So they both said we expected to do better. We expected to be vulnerable. We expected to ask for help. And even despite all of that, they still have some hiccups. That's life. You gotta learn. Sometimes you gotta touch the stove to see if it's hot. Although your parents have told you it's hot, don't touch. You're like, let me, and you do it anyway. So the idea is, despite all the, let's call them obstacles that we'll face in life, how do you bounce back when you get tripped up and fall? Some of us just lay there and expect to get bailed out from somebody. Get up. Because my parents told me their story. And they're like, look, here's what we did. We didn't know this, so we asked some questions. And we found some more people who could help us. Then some more. And then before you know, you kind of hit this flow where it's just like, you know what you're doing. It ain't perfect, but you just kind of feel like, I just feel like I'm doing it. Because if you're feeling that way, I know you are. And when people are like, well, how do you know? Well, the numbers will tell you, for one. But I always say, well, forget numbers and money. I've lost weight before. I'm not huge, but I put on some weight after college because I'm still like in athlete mode, but I'm not playing ball anywhere. And I'm like, I need to lose some weight. But as soon as I felt like I was losing weight, my clothes stopped fitting the same way. I stepped on the scale and the scale produced the number that I wanted to see. And it was this whole lead up to, I want to do better. What is it going to take? And I made some sacrifices, and then it became like a lifestyle. And so I want financial planning to become like a lifestyle where you just do it, where it's not a tough conversation to talk about money. I got a great challenge for you all. You should do this tomorrow, and then just like shoot me a note and let me know how it goes. I'll assume that all of us have like a close group of friends, right? I'll assume everybody got a few friends or family members. Ask them how much money you make. Try it out and let me know how it goes. And here's why I ask. Talking about money, no matter where you are in most, I'll say countries, wherever, it's still taboo. We don't talk about that. So we can talk about sports, sex, politics, religion. We talk about all these other things in a family setting with our friends. But if you ask them how much money they make, they're like, whoa. Why you want to know? You could be in a completely different industry, but it's something about knowing how much you make just makes people cringe. If we can ever get past that, I think we'll make a huge dent in this whole generational poverty thing. That's a problem. We can't talk about money, therefore we struggle with it.
Let's get practical here. So if
yeah.
say for example, someone who's listening to this conversation is living paycheck to paycheck, what is your recommendation as a first step to start breaking that cycle of generational poverty?
I think step one, you have to take inventory. You don't need me. You don't need anybody. You just need to sit down, and if it's on the computer or a piece of paper, just write down what you got. It's all about assets and liabilities. What do you own, your assets, and what do you owe? Just start there. Don't think about investments, insurance, savings, credit, but just what have you done up until this point in life? Start there. The problem is we get so much information so quickly that we're like, well, do I need it now? Do I need it later? Do I need to stop? What is it that you want? So if you've taken inventory, that's an easy first step that may take you 30 minutes. Just get quiet. If you're uncomfortable, get your favorite adult beverage, because that makes it a little bit easier. Just whatever's going to calm your nerves to prepare you mentally, sit down and take inventory. And I would say, and these could be interchangeable, but you got to take inventory. But what are you trying to do? I hate to say it, but like, what are your goals? Every competent financial professional I know will ask that question. And people will sit there and say, I don't really know. I'm like, well, you should probably figure it out. My life isn't your life. I should not be pressing upon you what I think you should do as a couple or a family. What is it that you want? And what you find is that people can't even answer that question. I don't care what they say, it's just tell me something. You want $1 million? Great. How are we going to get there? $1 million, gold, great. That's number one. All right, what's next? And because after you've listed some of those goals, now, this is where I come into play. Are you sure these are in the right order? I know we have the stretch goal, the unrealistic goal that we dream and fantasize, but like what can we do right now? Based on where we are right now in our situation, maybe that's not number one, maybe it should be number 5 or number 10. There may be some other steps we need to consider taking to get you to there. So I love for people to write their goals down, be it short-term, intermediate, or long-term, and be honest. Be honest about what it is you actually want to achieve.
Now, in terms of establishing that foundation, once we've done the inventory, what are some, I guess, what are some goals that people should maybe aspire to in terms of maybe having an emergency fund or figuring out life insurance, things like that? What would you say is a good foundation for building wealth?
That's one of them. Having that emergency fund. You 3 months is ideal. 6 months, even better. If you really want to stretch it, let's try to get to 12 months. I think this pandemic kind of showed everybody why having savings is important. If you do not think saving is important, please call somebody who lost their job, who didn't get any type of, I'll say, assistance. I bet you they wish they would have had some cash on hand or some cash in a bank account or their credit union, wherever they do their business. The emergency fund is so important. Once you've kind of gotten past that, depending on where you are, I'll say the stage of your life, I think if you have a house and or kids, you really need to explore life insurance like yesterday, because our time is limited on this earth and it's so, we just don't know. So I don't want you to risk knowing that an emergency could happen and your family's life is in shambles. Mm-hmm. So exploring life insurance, but just being educated on what it can do, because it is one of the easiest ways to help disrupt generational poverty. There's a sum of money that's getting paid out when you leave this earth, be it tomorrow or 50 years from now, or whenever you do leave this earth. And I say life insurance, but there's so many other types of insurance. Just explore it. The wealthiest people in the world have the most insurance, hands down. If I have a lot of wealth, I also have a lot of insurance, a whole bunch. After you've explored insurance, let's talk about retirement. It's coming. So, be ready, or run the risk of working until you can't work anymore. I don't want you to expire on the job. This is what I hope for and wish for and pray for, that you do enough now so that when you're ready to retire, you actually retire. Mm-hmm. How about that, y'all? Just, I'm ready to go. I'm going to holler at you and walk out the door. Don't even give them 2 weeks. I'm out today. Like, you wake up, check your numbers. You're like, I'm Gucci. I've got this money in the bank, in my investment accounts, in this account, and you leave. Most of us will never experience that because we will continue to work because we have to. Now, I don't knock people who work into their golden years, but work because you want to, not because you have to. So we've got to explore retirement. We also, and this is totally separate, you got to explore investments. It's not just about retirement investments. It's investing for general purposes. Maybe it's, it's real estate. Maybe it's stocks, ETFs, cryptocurrency. I know it's super popular everywhere, but what else are you doing in addition to just thinking about the older you? What about the you in 2, 5, maybe 6 years, right? What investments do we have squared away, or are we thinking about considering putting some money into in order to help produce some returns? And so looking at your investment strategy, be it a combination of you doing some investing on your own, because that's widely popular because the pandemic has everybody believing they can be a day trader. I won't go into detail on that. But also, in addition to the do-it-yourself options, having a professional or multiple professionals who can help give you advice and guidance on whatever investment you're interested in pursuing. And so, you got investments, retirement, insurance, you have savings, taxes. Look, do you really want trouble when it comes to taxes? Figure it out. I don't think you want that kind of trouble. So you have to have a focus on your tax situation. It will change as your life changes. And so you want to be in tune with what's happening now, but also even thinking about into retirement, what will happen later in life. So have that expert right there. And then the last piece I would say is having, I'll say, an attorney or attorneys. So, we're talking about estate planning and having that love letter written, get an attorney to help you. Yes, I know you can do it yourself. I'd be more confident in you going to a professional and letting him or her help you. But you can, all this stuff, a lot of stuff you can do it by yourself. And I find less than 5% of people who do everything I've asked them to do by themselves. It's not really, I'm not saying, it's always an exception to the rule, but just think about all the time you waste when you could have been enjoying your life. Mm-hmm. But you were like, I'm going to do it myself. Hey, have at it. I'm going to be over here at the party while you're trying to figure out whatever it is you're trying to figure out. I'm going to invest in somebody, and that somebody is what I call my money team. Everybody needs a money team. Everybody. I'm a financial planner, and I have a money team. Every wealthy person I talk to has a money team. Do y'all really think Jeff Bezos is worried about Amazon at this point? Or is he just worried about space exploration? Do you think, Beyonce and Jay-Z are trying to do more artistic stuff, or are they worried about their retirement? Y'all let me know. To have your listeners, let me know, do you think that these people really try to do everything themselves? And if so, please share it with me, because I know it ain't true. They're too busy living and working in their passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are you trying to figure it out by yourself? You know what? I'm gonna wish you the best. Good luck. Well, there's an easier way.
I remember Jay-Z retiring and then coming back out of retirement, and I don't think he did it because he needed to. We'll say that.
I feel that Jay-Z works because he wants to work.
Right. And the reality
that's what I believe.
Even like so many business people, right? Maybe they start trying to do it all, trying to be the one running the business and also the admin team and, payroll, all that, balancing the books. But then they realize, hold on, I'm really just good at what I started. I need to hire people to do A, B, and C to make this work, right? And it makes me think of like our marriage finances. Like, yeah, I enjoy it, but Brian really enjoys it, right? So guess what? I'm handing that baton to him, and like we'll have our check-ins. Okay, so where are we at now? So I'm not in the dark, right? And it's not just a free-for-all. It's where did this money get invested? What do we have in this account? What do we have here? But the reality is you do what you're strong at. And then it's having those conversations. Right. So I'm just thinking back to, when we first got married, what would you say to a couple who's, either engaged or newlyweds about having these conversations? Like, do you think when is a good time to bring it up? And how do they move forward with that?
It's always a good time to talk money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
The sooner, the better. Like, why would you want to marry somebody you didn't ask enough questions before you said I do?
Yeah.
So All right, I'll give you a real life example. So I got married 2 months ago, but my wife knew what it was at least 2 or 3 years ago. I was like, here's what's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have problems as a couple. They will not be financial. That's all I said. And that was early. She was like, what is he talking about? I was like, we're not. I appreciate you sharing that you all have a system. And whatever system you decide to create, you've got to get buy-in from the other party.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're afraid to have the talk, just know this could be the reason you all don't make it. I would really hope you do this conversation like yesterday. If you're nervous, just know the other person probably is too. And until you talk it through, you can keep kind of sweeping it under the rug and it explodes 10 years from now. Address it because you're about to share this life with this other person. And as you have the discussion, make it fun. Because until it's fun, y'all gonna have problems. Most divorces are because of financial reasons, not because of other stuff. It's money.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't love each other, but they stay together because they got money. Facts. No. But I wanted to share a story similar to you all, how you have kind of a check-in. One spouse always doesn't want to do it. The other spouse is always willing to, or by default has to. Now, if I get two bad ones, ooh, it's a little challenging. So whichever party is going to be responsible, dub that person the responsible party. Keep the other party informed, and whatever system you create, it's your system.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say that is because I have a colleague. Now, him and his wife they're in banking. They make great money. The wife makes more than the husband. But check this out. The wife gets a weekly allowance. Did y'all hear that? Like, she makes more money. So to
Tell
your
me why.
point.
Tell me why.
All right, this is why. She loves to shop. But they got 2 kids who are very active. And she said, I know hubby likes doing this stuff. So why would I waste my time being stressed when I know he loves it? So she handed off the responsibility. They do a monthly check-in. But yeah, she gets I guess I should say bi-weekly. That's it. They both get paid bi-weekly, but every 2 weeks. He's like, all right, I saw the money hit the account. Here's what you're entitled to for this week. And the next one. And so what she said was, she was like, people think we crazy. I say, but they're not living in your house. So screw them.
Exactly.
You don't care what people think when they're outside your walls. Because we are so obsessed with, oh man, I can't believe y'all are doing that. But if it's an effective system, no matter how crazy it sounds to you, it's a pretty good system.
Right.
Because if what you all have works where you feel like, hey, I'll be gonna do all the leg work, I just gotta show up and like not screw it up, you're gonna have a very successful marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've taken one of those elements off the table, taking it off. It's always going to be a problem until you address it. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend to any couple, the sooner the better. I did it well before I said before I even bought the ring. I was like, hey, here's what we got. You got to do this. And if you don't, this ain't going to work, baby. Mm-hmm. She did it. We married. Life goes on. But it should be just that type of get past it. You stay in communication. You do the updates when life changes. So one of you gets a promotion, reassess the whole plan.
Yeah.
One of you gets laid off, reassess the plan. You're expecting a child, work on the plan. If you want to buy a house or move, work on the plan. Like at all these life's, altering stages in your life, your financial plan should be doing just like that. The financial plan is usually over here and people just keep living and the plan stays stagnant. I'm like, how does that make sense to you? You're not poor no more. You can do a few more things to you've come up. Let's start acting like it. But if you never were exposed to that type of stuff, you don't know. You're just, well, nobody told me I should do this. Well, I'm telling you now. You should have did this 10 years ago. Okay, let's do it. Oh, let me think about it. Okay, keep thinking. All right, good luck. Just stop waiting for somebody else's approval. That's the message here. What you two have is working. Just keep tweaking it. Mm-hmm. What my wife and I have, it works. We make collective financial decisions. Like, I'm getting a car tomorrow. And because my wife is working on closing on a condo in New Jersey, we don't want to do anything to affect her credit. So I am putting the car in my name. Do y'all see how the teamwork works?
Yeah.
Wifey about to get this crib. I'm gonna get the car. All the money's coming into the house. So we good. And people are like, why would y'all do that? Because it makes sense to us.
Yeah.
At this point, we talk through all the scenarios. So then you have supreme clarity, and then you can just execute, execute, execute. But if you don't have the conversation at any point, it's not going to get better.
It's interesting too, because when you asked that question, I thought of the interview I was listening to recently with, we're talking to Mr. Hashtag Build Wealth today. I'm thinking of Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary. He recommended third date. You need to start talking about money. If you've gotten to that point, you need to start talking about money then. That was his approach. So
yeah,
definitely a conversation that should be had early.
And it shouldn't be uncomfortable, but we've made it to be this thing you cannot talk about. So you can sleep with somebody and have a one night stand and not feel guilty, but you can't talk about money or your credit or your aspirations financially, which is so, I say we, I'm generalizing, but there's a certain type of person who's very comfortable talking. And those are the people who have the wealth in this world. Now, you don't know everything they're doing, but they are overly comfortable having the talk. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not sweating talk. Well, I'm sweating because I'm hot, but like, this isn't a tough conversation.
Right.
But somebody listening is probably like, man, this brother is calling me out. And if you feel that way after you hear this conversation, get it together. Do something about it. The problem does not go away. It doesn't. You can't snap your fingers, go to sleep. No, this ain't Hollywood. You got to put in some work. I'll take it back. You don't have to. Keep living a mediocre life. Keep being mediocre with your funds. Don't invest. Keep complaining to the world about how somebody's holding you back. Or be courageous enough to look yourself in the mirror and say, what can I do to improve my situation?
Now, we discussed, obviously, as a couple, how to have that conversation, kind of where we need to start now. For a family, for parents, mm-hmm. What do you tell your kids? What are some of the things that we need to teach them early on to build those good money habits?
Be honest. Kids know when you're lying. So my niece is now 7, and I've kind of watched her grow, and I would ask her about money. And, for the longest, she was like, well, I don't really get it, but I know my mommy and daddy have it. And I was like, yeah, they do. But do you understand why they do certain things? And I just kind of let her talk. Because y'all think kids ain't listening. They paying attention. They're watching how you engage and talk about money. And when they're picking up on those key words like money, rent, retirement, investments, insurance, they're internalizing that stuff. They don't really understand it. But I gave my niece, when she was 3, some financial flashcards. And it was a picture of a piggy bank. And it has like a few coins and, approaching the slot. And she's like, I have one of those that I gave her. She's like, that's a piggy. And I was like, oh yeah, I put my money in my piggy. And I was like, great. She's 3. I was like, what are you doing with money? I don't know, but I like having it. I was like, we're good. You're 3. I got you, baby doll. And so now she's 7. And so I was riding around a couple weeks ago, and we were going to get some food. She was like, well, how much are you getting? I was like, I'm trying to figure out how much I'm going to spend. She's like, are you going to use a credit card, a debit card? I'm like, whoa. Okay. Because she's seen mommy and daddy use a credit card, buy stuff online. And so you got to just have the conversation, because you don't know what they're actually soaking in. So it's okay to be honest around, well, here's what I'm doing, and just giving them an example that they can understand. Mm-hmm. So for parents, whatever your kid is consuming by way of entertainment, find that favorite character and tell a story that they can relate. So again, my niece, when she was 3 or a little older, she loved Paw Patrol. I have watched, I'm like, I don't know all the characters, but if I had to explain something to her, I would just pick a character on Paw Patrol. Because that's what she watches. Like whatever cartoon they're into, talk. If they have to do small chores, reward them and say, hey, your job, and I'm going to pay you for, is to, take out the trash. Mm-hmm. Your job. live in this house, take out the trash. I'm gonna give you $1. Every time you don't do it, I keep your $1. And then you show them when they take out the trash, you acknowledge that they did their job. Maybe you can slip that $1 into the piggy bank or a jar, but bring the kids into the conversation. When you go to the grocery store, make a list, give your kid the grocery list and make them feel like they're doing the shopping. What aisle is this? They're gonna look up, okay. They go to that aisle, they get the item. Because a grocery store is a sensory overload for children.
Mm-hmm.
But if you walk in and have the talk before you walk in about what you're not going to buy or get, you give them a list and you teach them how to be a responsible shopper. So it's small things you can do to a kid if you just try. And if you don't know it, well, keep faking it and then go watch some YouTube videos. There's not a shortage of information. So stop saying, I don't know. I hear adults and parents, I didn't know. Word? I saw a cell phone in your hand and you were scrolling. Apparently you weren't looking at anything that was going to uplift your life. Y'all laughing. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. Y'all people making
it's so true though, right? Like there's so many things that we didn't know or we needed refreshers on, and it's like, yeah, you go to YouTube, right? Or you read, or you just go and get that information. But it's funny that you bring up the grocery store, because 2 weeks ago I was putting together my shopping list, and we have twins that are 9, so they're at a great age. My son said, oh, I want to help at the grocery store today. So I was like, okay. I'm like, you know what? They'll be safe there together. So I had a cart with our youngest, and they had their list, and they went around the whole store and got everything they needed. And we met in the freezer aisle. And I also said, don't get the most expensive. Like if you see something, you have to look and compare the prices, right? Because to them, I think like kids it's all about the visual sometimes. Right. And again, a perfect example, we just finished renovations this summer. And like, how many times this summer I heard, well, you have enough money, like we're doing the whole house renovations, right? And it's like, okay, but that's besides the point. Even if the money's there, do you really want to waste it? Waste is the word, on going to eat out when we have food in the fridge. Why wouldn't we save that for going and doing something together as a family or entertainment, right? But yeah, kids are all just visual. They just see, and then they think, oh, it's there, so let's just keep it going and spend. So yeah, I also think like just having conversations around them too, right?
Yeah.
So when we were doing this, it was, okay, so we spent X amount of money on this. We actually came in under budget. So now we have this money left over. So it's almost like it's everyday conversation and not just something that they're like, what are you talking about, right?
Or here's an idea too. You made me think about a story I told before. So the family meeting, usually it's the parents. Bring the kids. And if you want to go a little further to make it real saucy, everybody should dress up. Make it a corporate meeting, and you set the stage of, we're going into the boardroom. The boardroom could be the kitchen table, if you have a yard or a balcony. Like, make it a whole vibe. Like, we are a corporation. You two are the co-CEOs, and they are your shareholders. It behooves them to know what's going on in their corporation. They're not going to understand most stuff you're talking about, but again, you're exposing them to it. So make it fun. I can't wait to have children. So when we have our money meeting, I'm gonna be suited and booted. Wifey gonna be suited and booted. I'm gonna say, look at here, little one. You're gonna have a shirt and tie or a dress. Like, you're gonna look professional. And we're gonna have the Smith family meeting, the money meeting. And it's gonna be, and they're gonna tell their friends, like, we have these meetings once a month. I don't know what they talk about, but it's always about money. It's a great idea, right? It's just a simple, make it fun. And then the last thing for children, I know your point about what they can recognize when it comes to investing, pick something they love, like Disney. Huh, where's Disney going? Nowhere. Buy some Disney stock. So when they're wanting to go to Disney World, Disneyland, or wherever, you're like, you know what? I'm an owner here. Let me go to my amusement park. And you start to use that type of language of ownership. So I've talked to my niece. I'm like, you own this company. I own it? I was like, yeah. So you're supporting yourself by watching this show. What? She ain't getting it, but she gonna get it when she get older. I'm like, yo, you've been whatever your favorite brand is. If a parent loves Nike, I love Nike, you love Nike. Buy some Nike stock if your kid wants Nike apparel. Or what if the company is publicly traded? Find that out and show your kids you actually own a piece of this business. So if all your friends go out and buy Nikes, they actually just help you make money. It's going to blow their mind. That's what I do in children or youth workshops. I always use like a Nike example because everybody knows Michael Jordan. He's an easy, and they know Jordans. I'm like, bet, how many pairs of shoes do you own? And did you know if you could own some of the companies that makes them? Kids' minds are blown. And then they start having different conversations. I appreciate you supporting my business. Buy those shoes. Buy 17,000 pairs. You're going to put money in. They're gonna be like, what are you talking about? I'm an owner. But wouldn't that be funny if your 9-year-olds just start talking about like they own stuff? Yeah. Their friends are gonna be like, what are y'all doing at your house? Because I want in. Because kids gonna talk. And that's when you start the conversation at the house. They start telling their friends start telling their parents, and now you start having this conversation that's going this way. Because usually it's parents talking down. But now you empower the children to be involved in this wealth building journey. This, my friends, and for all your listeners, and whoever views this session, that's how you disrupt generational poverty. It's not one specific thing. It's not one specific product or service. It is a culmination of how do all these different things, be it now or later.
Right now. I wanted to transition and talk about something real quickly. I just wanted to very quickly share a story. We started recently having these conversations with our kids. And one of the things that they have to do now is they have a long-term savings jar. When they earn money, 10% goes in there. And if they want to spend money, if they want to spend $10, they have to be able to save $5. So just trying to teach them, want them to really have that lesson of not spending your last cent, right? You need to be able to have money if you want to spend money. So, and I had this recently with one of the 9-year-olds. It was a tougher lesson, but they wanted to buy their friend a birthday present. I'm like, okay, where's your money? I don't have any. I have this much. I'm like, okay, well, how much is the present? It costs this much. I'm like, well, that's more than what you have. So if you want to be able to buy them something, it needs to cost this much because you need to put away this much. And he wasn't happy about it, but now he knows. But
lesson learned.
Yeah. Now,
love it.
One thing that I wanted to touch on real quick, because I know we're up against time here, but credit. What advice? So there's a couple of things I just want to ask you about now, just kind of let you run with it here. But what is important for us to know about credit? And, when we get really advanced, also talk about generating some passive income. If you could unpack that for us a little bit.
Credit, just understand the rules. That's all I'm gonna say. So much bad information has been shared over decades around credit. It hasn't really changed. Just understand the rules. We've gotten so much bad information that it has become, I'll say, the truth somehow, some way. But we have to find more, I'll say, credible sources to move forward with credit. It's still holding, unfortunately, a lot of people back because they can't get past it. I think credit is one of those foundational pieces, along with like budgets and saving, where if you can't get past those, give up. Just figure it out. Just stop what you're doing and figure out your credit. Because y'all laugh at it, but this is the truth. It's you're not ready for game day if you're not going to practice. You're just not going to be ready. You're not that talented. I'm sorry, you're just not. Some of you can get lucky for a short time, but you got to understand credit, and it's unique to you. So understand your situation. Stop listening and getting advice from people who aren't telling you what they're doing and are showing you things, who just have an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. And just keep that in mind when you're talking or dealing with credit. But you just got to understand the rules, use the rules to your advantage. And with credit, give yourself time. With a decent plan and a little bit of time, you can improve your credit no matter what. But you just got to believe you can do it. No matter how big of a hole you're in, you can get out of it, but you got to believe. To your last point around passive income, we got a lot of options. I don't think we have enough time to go through all the different things. I know the biggest one is usually real estate. So here's a little fun fact. You don't have to actually physically own property to own real estate. That's what I want to leave you with. That's the biggest one that most people, when you think passive, it's real estate. You can invest in what's called a real estate investment trust. These are actively traded on various markets. You don't have to worry about your credit, you don't have to worry about savings or your skin complexion. You can have real estate yesterday. That's the biggest one for passive, right? It could be, if you want to, if you're into like what they call like affiliate marketing. So if you have like a business, you can post, if you got enough traffic, a company may say, hey, want to do a banner ad? Great. That's income. You ain't doing anything but have it on your page. You've been driving traffic, you get paid. Now, those are easy ones. Everybody's not going to sell things, but certain products that you sell offer kind of trails or residuals. Won't go into that deep wormhole, but there are a lot of opportunities from an entrepreneurial standpoint that could produce that passive income. Now, the one thing I'll say about it is work before you start getting this slow trickle or a big drip or flood of income. And I think that's the message I want people to leave with is it's still work, then it gets good. See, we hear passive meaning, oh, I ain't got to work. Now, you don't just flip a switch and then start getting money. But another passive income, investing in dividend paying securities. So if it's not a REIT, which has to pay a dividend, a lot of stocks that pay dividends, mutual funds, ETFs, just depending on what you're invested in. So you could be the right portfolio could have you pulling in a lot of passive money just because you own some reputable companies. So many ways.
I love seeing those dividend notifications on the app on my phone when they come in. They just bring a smile to my face. Right,
because you did nothing. You woke up, you're like, yes, I did nothing.
So for anybody who wants to learn more and who wants to really take their finances to the next level, where can we connect with you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, I would love people to first visit my website. It's thebuildwealthmovement.com. So thebuildwealthmovement.com. It's so simple. I just want you to read through it. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. I have a lot of articles on there that I started to publish years ago because I kept seeing us not getting objective information. I'm licensed to sell insurance, investments, but I kept finding people who were like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm like, tell me why. So I try to educate people on the importance of just understanding what these various products can do and what you should be thinking about from a planning perspective. I love the plan. So again, the site is thebuildwealthmovement.com is where you can find me. And if I'll take you to Instagram. My handle is Mr_Build Wealth. And so you can find me on IG. This month, it's a little heavy on life insurance because it's Life Insurance Awareness Month. You've been warned. I'm on one about life insurance. So you didn't know anything about life insurance. Just follow me for this month. I'm 14 days in. I literally just posted my video today before I got onto this session. So I'm going heavy in those streets on life insurance this month. And so I have some themes I do every month, but Mr_Build Wealth on Instagram. If you just got questions, everybody's not going to be a client of mine, so I don't expect that, but at least get the right information before you decide to make a decision. And if you're like, well, how many people should I interview? If you don't have like that money team that I talked about, interview 2 to 3 professionals. Because after the third one, it's all going to start sounding the same. It's like they said the same thing they said. Most companies can sell the same products. It's just who do you have a connection with? If you currently have, I'll say, assets or money at an investment house or firm that never calls you except on your birthday, why do they have your money? You've probably got a friend who's also in that same business who would love to actually stay in touch with you. So we think about the people who are an arm's length away from you to consider being a part of your money and just explore whoever you decide to be on your team. It has to be a good fit. Personalities do matter. And I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So find the person or persons who mesh well with your personality and your style. And if they can deliver on what it is that you need, I think it's worth the investment.
There you go.
Absolutely. Well, Jasper, thank you so much for taking the time today. We appreciate it. And hopefully we've helped a lot of people disrupt some generational poverty.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you all again for having me. And this was such a fun conversation. So hopefully they take what we talked about to heart and do one thing. That's it. You can't do it all today, tomorrow. Pick one thing that we talked about and execute.
Totally agree. Thanks, Jasper.
Thanks for listening to the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. For more ways to listen, connect with us on social media. To be a guest or to partner with us, check out our link tree at Disrupt the Everyday. Join us next time for more ways to disrupt the everyday.
Tuesday.